Okay. So on the agenda after check-in, I wanted to just kind of recap of our last meeting, update on the topics. For those, um, if you want to add in more information from what we had talked about in April. So just to let you know that I took back to Bishop Sue the conversation we had in regards to the current proposal of a youth gathering, tri-synodical youth gathering in the Texas area. And then she was going to take it back to the three bishops, Bishop Mike Reinhardt and Bishop Eric Gronberg. And they three were going to put their heads together and then give their summary to the person who had put that proposal together. So it is looking like that we are going to tell that person to table for now. It may come back up maybe down the road, but for now, at least, we are going to table and not have a tri-synodical youth gathering, just because of where we are at in ministry of trying to get organized with faith formation, youth ministry, children's ministry, all of that, and for the fact of dollars where we're at synodically everywhere, and for the fact that there's already a couple gatherings going on that folks are invited to go to if they want to attend. The Western States Youth Gathering is next in 2020, and then getting ready for the ELCA Youth Gathering in 2021. But doesn't mean that it can't come back to the table for discussion, a couple years down the road. But that's what was given to Bishop Sue, and she was going to take it on. And I know she echoed the same. Bishop Mike's conversation synod was the same ways that they wanted to table and try to do what ministries are happening there. They have their local gatherings as well at their camp, and we're doing our local gatherings at Cross Trails as well. So to really focus on those areas. The other conversation we had in April that kind of needed some update work is we are working on organizing just faith formation in general for the Southwestern Texas Synod. Those of you who are at Synod Assembly, we did a lot around Brenda Smith, Pastor Brenda Smith from Church Riders there, and kind of talked, because she's the faith formation coordinator, and she kind of brought in some, did a workshop on faith formation. There were a couple other workshops on faith formation topics. Those of you who went to Synod Assembly, you want to give the rest of the group summary of what your thoughts, how Synod Assembly went, and what things that stood out for faith formation for you all? Who? I'm trying to think who all went. Okay, Jessica.
I'll say something.
Okay.
I thought the learning piece of Synod Assembly was excellent. Just that it was there was awesome to begin with, and then it was very well done as well. And I heard good comments. I had like 6 people from my congregation there because they're all involved in so much stuff that I just had a bunch of people. So all of them overwhelmingly said that was really helpful, and they're thinking about how to use what they learned going forward. So that was great. And I liked the workshops as well. I felt like there was just a lot around learning in general. Obviously, that was the point, but I heard good comments from people across the board about Synod Assembly, that this was the best one they've ever attended in Southwestern Texas, that they learned, that they really enjoyed actually getting some time to talk to the people who were around the tables with them and things like that. So I think it was a really good first step toward faith formation as a synod and learning together as a synod and just building relationships too. And I have not stopped hearing awesome things about the playground either. So thank you, Sarah, for putting that together.
It was a team effort, so thank you on that. But yeah, I'll second what Jessica said. I mean, everything that I've heard has been really very positive, and my representatives came back especially excited about some of the really practical things that they heard and saw and walked away with. things from the different display tables, things from workshops, even something as simple as, the mention of Duolingo, so they can go home and practice Spanish and those types of things, that there were just really practical, helpful things that are helping them thinking about how to continue to grow in faith and be involved. And that was really appreciated.
Good. Thank you. Overall, this was the year of learning, so it just fit naturally. So it was great. Glad to hear. We continue to hear positive comments as well. So that's great. Thank you for sharing those things. So the other topics that we talked about in April was just basically going through what faith formation is, and the language change, and where we're going with that with the ELCA and Synod wise. So with anything else, any questions from April meeting? Talked a lot about camp ministry and the gathering stuff. The Chrysalis, I will let you know that Deanna Christensen has sent out the dates for both the gatherings. I hope that you all have them. I had sent them out earlier, but I will resend them out again so you guys can get them on the calendars. I am actually going to, and I don't know, Pastor Sarah, if you're going to be out there too, the week of July 14th, she is, the camp's going to meet with the campus ministry folks of the Southwestern Texas Synod, and they invited me to come out and be a part of that. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about the gatherings and the themes and just kind of the direction of how camp can kind of make this a good gatherings for this next year. So looking forward to that.
This might be off topic.
Okay.
But okay, so this year was learning. What is next year?
That's a good question. The next year is to love. And we are going to be focusing, we're in the works with it right now. The topic I think we're going to be really focusing in is on diversity. I think so, a little bit of racism, a little bit of, just how are we diverse? How can we make sure our diversity is, that we are diverse in this church, to lift up diversity. But that's in the work. Yep. And Synod Assembly will be in New Braunfels this next year in June, the beginning of June. So, be all that. I think that's all the recap. Anybody else have any other questions or thoughts from the last meeting or recap or things that they've heard? You're all.
Deacon Darcy.
Yes.
I'm sorry, this is Debbie. Just a thought or a question. Cross Trails is taking over the middle school youth gathering. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And they are also doing the high school youth gathering.
And high school. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So this will be a year of the test to see, and they're excited about it, and we're excited for them. So we will partner with them and see how it goes.
Yes.
Yeah. They definitely want to get still input from folks, so you may be finding an email from them or from myself asking some questions as time gets closer, but we'll see how this all unfolds. So, okay. The next topic I wanted to bring to the team that we need to talk about a little bit, I wanted to have conversation around, and I know Pastor Jessica and Keisha can speak more on this topic, is this last year we had, I'll give the history a little bit. We had our Faith Formation Network, monthly network meetings, where a group of the youth and family folks, children's ministry, Faith Formation leaders, whoever, were invited to come, and we met at San Marcos, First Lutheran in San Marcos, for about a couple hours, and then afterward we would go to lunch together. The idea of the meetings, network meetings, and this has been going on even before I came in, and a lot of synods have network meetings around children, youth, and family, where their leaders, volunteers, paid professionals, pastors, deacons, youth ministry leaders can come together, basically a time of learning, a time of support and sharing with one another what's going on in the ministries, prayer time, and then a time of fellowship. So before I came in, from my understanding, and again, Pastor Jessica can probably fill in a little bit more, and Keisha, you guys have been meeting, I don't know how many years, but has continued to been meeting together and having conversations and stuff. When I came in this last year, Chris St. Clair kind of took it over this last year, and we met at the beginning when I first came in, set up some topical for the meetings, and then try to find people to come in and talk on those areas of topics. And then had time for support, prayer, and then time to go out for lunch. The question is, and I know Chris and I had afterward kind of wrapped up and had conversation, and he had suggested or said that he was going to step down, did not want to do this anymore, felt that now that I'm in my position, I could either take it over or find somebody else. But had a really good question, and I said, you know, I'm going to bring this to the Faith Formation Network mutual ministry team, because the question was, is this still viable? Is it worthwhile to still try to have people come together and meet, because the numbers haven't always been big numbers? And the question is why aren't people coming to these meetings? Or is there another way of being a network and doing things a little bit differently? So what's working, what's not working? Should we continue? Are there different topics that we should be focusing on? Questions like that. So my question for the team is, and when I talked it over with the bishop and our staff, the question, just like we have with everybody in our synod is so widespread. And so when we meet together face to face, we had better make sure that the meetings have some meat to it, that it's worthwhile for people to come from long distances. What's the purpose of the meetings? What are we getting at? So questions like that we need to really kind of focus on. So my question is I would like to do an evaluation. I have a list of all the names from at least this past year that have at least showed up once. Some have showed up more than once. That I would like to send a survey out to, as well as those who haven't showed up, because I had always emailed, over 130 were on my email list to invite to come to these network meetings. And just to kind of get some input as to see why they did come or did not come, or is it worth it, or things like that. So thoughts, I'm going to open it up for discussion.
I just want to say hi. This is Morgan. I was caught up in a meeting with a community partner, but I got to my car and got on the phone as fast as I could. So sorry for being late.
That's okay.
Hello.
Glad you're here with us, Morgan. Thank you.
Yeah.
As far as the meetings go, I mean, I showed up more at the beginning of the year, and then at the end of the year, like March, April, May, I started getting really, really busy, and I felt overwhelmed. And for me, driving from Fredericksburg was just hard at that point. So I know people who are farther away probably feel similar. And this is just me personally. I like more of the relationship, catching up, checking in on people aspect than the learning part. I don't really care about that.
Okay.
That's my input.
Okay. Jessica, can you, do you mind kind of giving a little bit more background for those? Or is there any more?
Honestly, I don't have much more background than you or Keisha do, but I will say on the kind of the same topic as Keisha, in our deanery, we found the same thing was happening, because there's something, we take the summers off with the youth workers for obvious reasons. And then we come back and everybody is really excited to see each other in September, October, and then it's usually either November or December, kind of a joint meeting. But the spring drags on. So I'm wondering if maybe part of the problem isn't just that it's just too many meetings for everybody to try to make a priority every single month during the spring.
Okay.
Because, it's one thing to say, okay, I have 3 meetings from September to December. But if you look at January to May, 5 meetings is a lot to make a priority. If we were doing, every other month, or, just pick we're going to do late January and early March or whatever it's going to look like. I wonder if that would kind of change things attendance wise, or drop off earlier or something, because things do start to get busy. I don't know, Keisha, if you have any thoughts on that.
I don't know. I just felt like this year in particular was really crazy for me. Just with Lent and Easter and everything else, graduation. I don't know. And I think we've always kind of struggled with this. Like one year, instead of learning, we would do like catching up, and then each month somebody else would plan a worship and we'd do worship. And then that got to be a little bit much. So I think we've always kind of struggled with what do we do at these meetings. And I don't have an answer, but that's my knowledge and background.
Okay. Well, that's helpful to hear. Joel, I know you've come a couple times. What was your thoughts?
Actually, I have not been.
Did you? I thought you came once. Did you come once?
I have not. No.
Oh, okay. Okay. Did you know about these meetings? I mean, you, right?
No, I hadn't. So maybe that's a issue that we're having, is just a lack of knowledge about it, because I think it's probably something that I would be interested in being a part of. I think that's a cool opportunity to have. So just being aware of it would be very helpful.
So you're not getting my emails then? Because you're on my email list. Pretty sure. The big email list. I'll go back and double check too, and we'll double check. So that could be if you're missing.
Maybe I'm just missing them. I'm not sure.
Okay.
But, okay.
We can go back and check that too. Okay. Those are good.
I think.
Go ahead.
I think also putting like a quick blurb on the Facebook group, the Southwestern Texas Synod Youth Worker, whatever it is, the Facebook group. Because I've been really bad about reading my emails this year too. Okay. So if they're like long, I'm like, I'll check in with that later, and then I forget about it. But if it's on Facebook, like I'm on my phone all the time, and if it's just like, hey, meeting on December 4th, whatever, I'll be like, okay, that's a good reminder.
Okay. And I've tried, I know I've missed a couple, but I've tried to put them on Facebook, but usually it's like too last minute. Okay.
Well, I'll say I have seen the emails. When I first started getting them, I wasn't exactly sure what it all was about. It took me a little while to kind of put two and two together in terms of just kind of what was going on. But then it's no new thing, but just the distance makes a difference for those of us who are from a ways away. And so even though there are things that it would have been fun to check in and see what it was all about, the distance was just prohibitive for me doing that.
Yep. So here's also another question or thought. So as we have conferences in our synod, we have the deans, because Pastor Jessica is one of them, and the deans meet with the rostered leaders. What if, and maybe the conferences don't have enough lay leaders and rostered leaders who are doing this work specifically for faith formation, youth ministry. What if we broke it up and did conference gatherings where more focused in on the caring and the support, as Keisha is saying, rather than the learning?
I mean, I think that would address some of the issues of distance that people are bringing up. And I think it's also important just to name the needs that weren't being met for which this group was initially created. And I know this just from organizing work that I did with groups, that it's a valuable tool to reevaluate the needs that people are feeling, and to see if those needs are continuing to be met, because it's not going to do a whole lot of good for anyone if we keep doing the same thing, but it's just for the sake of oh, well, this is why we were originally started or whatever. So I'm really grateful for the people who are speaking up and saying, well, actually, this whole continue continuing ed or learning aspect isn't really what I need this group for. I really value, you know, the connections and the relationships that are being built. And I think doing something like having conference meetings more regularly than like the larger group meetings in person might speak to that need. And then the other needs might be addressed in these like go-to meetings where people can log on through like video or phone or whatever, and then talk about some of the like business matters, if you will, that this group addresses.
Okay.
My only hesitation conference, like sticking to our current conference structure, is that there are not going to be enough people to make that viable.
Agreed.
Like a group of conferences. So just throwing out kind of areas I know, Cap North and South and maybe Cibolo Creek could meet together, and Hill Country and Alamo or something like that. Necessarily that way, but I have 15 ministries in my conference, and there are maybe 2 youth, lay, and rostered leaders in my conference. So,
Agreed. Like I think Hill Country is me and maybe camp. So that would be not viable for me.
Okay.
So on really, really excellent conference gatherings of rostered leaders, I get 20. Say a really, really, really good gathering of one conference of youth workers would be like 4. And that would be if everybody was up. So
Gotcha.
Yeah, I definitely think regionally would be helpful, whether it's conferences and using that structure, or just saying like, if you find yourself close to Austin, here's where our meeting's going to be. Whether or not you're, you know, Crystal does come to San Marcos, but maybe she doesn't always want to come to San Marcos. So just kind of throwing it out there. This is where some people in the youth worker world are going to show up this month.
Okay.
That makes sense, and I appreciate your input on all this. Another thought I had as you all were talking, what if we did one big in the fall and one big in the spring, and then and for those who wanted to meet relationally in the different conferences, or you know, the group conferences, do it the rest of the time, you know. So I have a person to try to put that together if they want, and see where that goes. That's another way. I guess my question for you all right now is, I am going to put a survey together, but let me know, and maybe you need some more time to think about this, and you can email all of us, reply all. Let me know what questions you think would be helpful to ask on this survey. I don't want to be asking questions just to ask questions and knowing that what you might get, but to ask really thoughtful questions to try to get at what the needs are from folks. And so that we can then better serve, you know, to have something helpful. Does that make sense?
Deacon Darcy, this is Debbie. I would like to comment, being on the lay side of this, and a small church. I like the idea of the conference and maybe calling several conferences together, but I don't want the small churches to get lost out there, because sometimes it's intimidating for the lay folks to, you know, well, we don't have a youth minister at our church, and I'm not sure if I'm equipped, you know, to do this, but a lay person may have an interest and want to start doing more with their church to youth program, or whatever the right words are. I don't want I don't want it to get lost for that group that sometimes it's just intimidating for us lay folks to try to figure out how we fit in and how can we do this. So I like the idea that it goes to the deans and then it can come back to the churches that way. If, hey, you know, and the pastors working with the lay folks to try to get things going again or something, lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. And yeah, you bring up a good point, Debbie. For the smaller congregations to be able to feel like that they are still part of our synod and to equip and train the lay leaders and have them, because I know your congregation, Jay comes sometimes, right? Jay's,
Right. And yes, and he is and he wants to do this, but he needs a lot of mentoring. I mean, this is just my thoughts on this and watching. And so a lot of the lay folks don't have the, they've been in unchurched possibly for most of their lives and are now trying to do these things and need lots of mentoring. And that may not be what this group is about, but at least it's a place to start for that group of folks that are trying to get a little more up to speed on things, maybe.
Yep. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Definitely want to keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, definitely. Any other questions or comments around this? We did this past year also use the GoToMeeting for most of the network meetings, so folks could chime in digitally. And I don't know, did a couple of you guys do that? Did you do that once, Keisha?
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I don't remember if you did or didn't. I need to check in with those who did, just
I don't know.
to see what their thoughts were. How was it? Was it hard to really connect digitally? I mean, other than just getting the information, did you feel like you were part of the group? Did you not? I know it's hard when you're digital, it's hard to feel connected than being in a room full of people. So.
I mean, it's definitely a different vibe, like calling in on a phone to a meeting, or it's a little bit better if you can get the video feed connected. But like, I mean, for me, like, I think I had every intention of, calling into the April meeting, but April was my last semester of seminary, and I was like, it was bananas. And so I didn't make it in for the call, but I had it on my calendar for today. And even then, still got caught up with some other things. So being able to call in was a useful tool. I think for people who either like geographically like distant or just have like a lot of other stuff going on in face to face,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And we're trying as a synod, just to let you all know, trying to utilize the digital video conferencing more. So because of the distance of folks, we realize that, but it's also important that we need to gather and to, disseminate information. So.
Right. That whole like incarnational value thing,
yes.
Right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm wondering, is there, and I mean, just pardon my like ignorance of the Southwest Texas Synod and stuff, but I mean, is there like a list or a network of all of our churches in this synod and in the conferences that are like considered like more rural, kind of like what Debbie was talking about? So I don't know, maybe like just like we have this like faith formation network. I mean, maybe there's some sort of like effort that we can do from this group to connect the more rural churches with each other and with this group, so they're not like falling through the cracks like Debbie was talking about.
So that's a good question, Morgan. And that would we can definitely put we do have a directory of all the congregations and the roster leaders for sure. But as far as getting names who are lay people or people who are responsible for the faith formation or children, youth, and family ministry, that will need to be updated. I do have a list, but I'm sure it's outdated because things change over time. And with ebb and flow of ministries, people come and go. So that would definitely need to be updated. But that is one way that we could try to really focus and make sure that we have the smaller congregations and try to pair them up maybe with some bigger congregations to kind of help mentoring, or someone that they could go to and ask questions if they need anything. But that's a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, sorry, I know that's a little off of what we were originally talking about, but
No.
Debbie chiming in really got me thinking about it.
Yeah. No, that's good. Good.
And I think, Darcy, the list that you have is one that we created a long time ago from those meetings, because we were like, we don't know who's where and who's paid and who's volunteer, and but it is hard to keep up with.
It is. Yeah.
But it was helpful for me to have that, just to kind of see where people were at and what they were doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think and I can try to take this summer to try to compile that list and see if I can get some. I think it will be an eye opener for everybody, is to see how many congregations really put forth the effort of focus on youth ministry or children's ministry, or or faith formation, or whatever it's being called, because some of the congregations, even the smaller congregations, are struggling to even try to get a rostered leader in place. So to try to even try to focus in on a different, a more focused ministry, such as children, youth, and family, that's even more, harder. But I think it's worth an effort. And just like at Synod Assembly, for those of you who were there, when you heard the state of the Synod from the bishop and Carl, and the statistics, how many congregations were still without a pastor, and how many can afford a full-time pastor, and so forth. It's an eye-opener. So
yeah.
But the thing that I appreciate Southwestern Texas Synod is taking the effort of being able to have these conversations, because it is important. And the one thing that I have gathered from being here so far, and from the conversations with Bishop, and the reason for the name change, Faith Formation, is that it's really important that Faith Formation is in all congregations, in all aspects of life, from birth to death. So yes, I know some people may feel like youth ministry is getting the lower end of the stick. But as you read research, and as you learn, and as we're viewing even in the ELCA, youth ministry is now kind of going down the wayside, just because there are a lot of congregations don't have a lot of youth. So then it's now being wrapped up into the word faith formation. So let's really try to focus on the whole congregation and being intergenerational. And so that's where I think the focus is for Southwestern Texas Synod. Is that we are really wanting to create and make sure that we are supporting all the congregations in their efforts of faith formation. So try not to leave out. And some of you who are specifically youth ministry folks may feel like that you're not being attended to, or that it's just being a lower standard of things, but it's not. It's just we're trying to incorporate it all together. So that's where we're at. But I think as we put this survey together, I will invite each of you to be prayerfully thinking about what questions could we ask. And I'm going to put this out to everybody, all rostered leaders as well as all the lay people the list I have, and see how many we get back. And hopefully at our next meeting in August, we'll have the tally of everything, and from there we can kind of discern what the next steps are for this. But I think we're in this moment of time to evaluate and maybe shift some things.
Are we looking for multiple choice questions or not?
I think both would be fine. I mean, all kinds.
Okay.
We don't want it to be too long that they're going to go, oh my gosh, got to fill all this, but enough to get to the meat of it and to be able to hit submit and give us a glimpse. So, and at the last network meeting, I think I had said that I was bringing this to the Faith Formation Mutual Ministry, and that we were going to try to put together an evaluation, so the folks knew that, in the fall something may be different. So anyway, any other questions or lasting comments on this topic? Okay. If not, moving on, looking at the children, youth, and young adult ministry topic, wanted to kind of get feedback, input, thoughts in terms of how our synod can lift each of these ministries up in our synod without under the umbrella of faith formation. And how do we do this? And is it on our website? Is it through offering resources in these areas? Thoughts?
Sorry, was there a question? People keep walking into my office.
So looking
Even
at,
though my door is shut.
that's okay. So looking at the children, youth, and young adult ministries, and I mean, if you were to divide them out per se, but right now in our synod, we are trying to put them all under the umbrella of faith formation. How can our synod lift up to make sure that we are resourcing people and lifting up these ministries within our synod?
I personally think letting them know we're here to help support them, and what can we do to help them get grow their ministry, by letting them know what we do, what we're supposed to do, and just getting our information to them to see what we can do to help them as we go.
Okay.
Be the right answer.
Okay.
Well, and maybe that's something that we find out from the survey, like what are people needing, and how can we support? Because it's easy to be like, oh, we're here if you need anything, but then people don't reach out. Because
Good point. That's a very good.
Right.
Yeah, for us at our church, we have children's programs, we have youth programs, but once you get to young adulthood, I mean, you graduate high school and there's nothing for you until you're married. So I guess I don't even know what that would look like, but I wonder if we can find resources to present them, because right now our church just doesn't have any. I mean, we live in Austin. There's UT, 15-minute drive away. Like, there's young adults. We're just not connecting with them in any sort of way. And so I wonder if we just develop something from the ground. I don't know is there something people already have or what, but that's kind of where we're at.
One of the things that I was paying attention to when I was out in Boston at this campus ministry conference is that they also had the person from ELCA Churchwide who's in charge of young adult ministries come and speak, and really how many opportunities there are on a churchwide level and how many resources there are that I don't make enough use of in my own congregation here, and that I really wasn't even aware were available. But there may be something that we can do even with looking at what Churchwide is doing, and are there ways that we might tap into some of those resources that are already being developed and things that are already being done. We just may not have the connections yet to realize are already out there.
Yeah.
Or is there like a particular synod that stands out as like, oh, they're great at faith formation stuff? Like, Darcy, do you know if there's any?
Yeah, there are synods out there that have their specialty areas that are great at faith formation, or great at youth ministry, or great at children's ministries. Yeah.
I think what I find myself needing more on is really just a list of places to go to find what I need. Whether that's a connection with a person or a resource, a curriculum, or whatever it is, I'm always asking, where do I find, like yesterday I was trying to remember, and now I've forgotten the company again, but there's a company that makes these giant posters that you can color. And that's, you know, I remember that they remember their name, find the website to see if it was something that I was interested in buying for generational Sunday school. Or like, where do you go for children's sermons? What kind of curriculum are you using? All of those things. A place where I could go that says, here's some curriculum for these ages, or here's a good contact to ask these questions for. That would be the most helpful in terms of a small congregation, I would think. And I assume large congregations too, but I know I'm the one trying to find all this stuff all the time.
So like a centralized, sounds like centralized, maybe like online resource, like list or conglomeration or something. For resources.
Yep.
That would be.
And that's also something that we've talked about for years at these meetings, and we try, but it doesn't happen or it doesn't work. So I don't know what else we need to do, but I think that is something that is needed.
So, go ahead.
An online person, I know when we talked about that list, when I was working on it, was a lot of like, here's books and stuff, but I don't have time to read a book on youth ministry because I work 30 hours a week and I have to cover the whole time. So websites, you know, here's the place you go, worshiping with children, here you go, and here's how you find the lectionary cycle you're in, or whatever it is. Ideas for working with kids, or here's a really good curriculum that we've already vetted. That kind of stuff is really helpful because I just plain don't have the time to read a book or to sort through all the resources myself.
Yeah, I don't have time to read books either.
You know, it could be a resource center on the Synod website and invite churches who have done this and it's working for them to maybe, I don't know, maybe go through Deacon Darcy as a filter, so we just don't have everybody putting stuff out there that they think is important but may not be. But have a resource center for smaller congregations and the larger ones that might be looking particular. And
that could be one of the questions on the survey you're talking about sending out, Deacon Darcy, is, you know, what are some resources that you know, are really useful, effective, concise, whatever, for doing faith formation in your specific context, and then just going from there. And like, if there's a couple that are like repeated, for sure, adding that to some list that could maybe have a tab on the Synod website or something like that.
Yep. And I know we had talked in April too about all these online resources and different things out there, and there are tons of resources out there. It's a matter of curating them and putting them on. So one of those,
and getting them as well.
Right. One of the on right now on the Synod website, if you go under, I don't know if you've seen the new Synod website. If you go under, let me see if I can pull it up and I'll show you. And I want to continue to work on this. And I'm trying to figure out where to put it too. I have started a list of resources for faith formation. But if you go to, I think it's under Congregations tab, under Faith Formation, off to the side I have Vibrant Faith. Can you see my website right, or see the screen right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see the Vibrant Faith I'm pointing to? If you click on Vibrant Faith, it'll take you to the Vibrant Faith website, which has tons. And this is, I think, what you guys are talking about and looking for. Let me pull up, see if I can pull this up. They have tons of resources that they have curated for the different topics. And let me see. They have the blogs, but let's see where I can. Well, actually, it's not Vibrant Faith. I think I did Lifelong Ministry. It's the Lifelong Faith that has the ton. Yeah, this one. the Lifelong Faith that has tons of resources. So if you go, here we go. Faith formation practices, they have all kinds of resources. And then they have a whole list. See if this comes up. Yeah, so if you click on each one of these, so for example, digital faith formation, for example, it tells you what it all is, and then they give you all these links. So I think this is what you guys are kind of talking about, right? Is that on our website, we would have something like this that would have different topics, and then we link the website to, you know, all the different things. Is this what you're kind of looking at, looking for, hoping?
Yeah.
From my perspective, I'm thinking there might be something that's helpful even about, and all of this stuff is great and finding it all is great. I do think there's something powerful about saying in our congregation, here's something that we're using that really is working well for us. And even some way of providing that network or that resource between congregations so that even more so than just getting lost in a rabbit hole of what all is available online, it's kind of tied to the specific fact that somebody here is using it and it's working for them. And you could even contact that person and say, you know, how are you using this? Or, you know, that sort of thing. That would be the networking piece that I think could be fun to see how that might be included too, and however this gets put together.
Yeah, that's a great, and we can even ask that on the survey. What does your congregation feel like their, you know, the STAR ministry is, and would you be willing to share a resource or your name at least to contact to doing that ministry? Yeah. Or if they have some videos or.
Yeah, or just some kind of blog, you know, where someone from our synod writes something about a kind of maybe an area of growth and success, and it just makes it more personal because it's like, I'm not sure who said it, but it's someone in our synod, you know, it makes it more people.
Yeah, within our context. Okay.
Sorry.
Nope, this guy. The other question I had around this is because the language, we're really focusing in on the language of faith formation. Curious if you have heard anything around our synod about losing the language of children's ministry, youth ministry, young adult ministry. Any thoughts?
I'm sorry. Run that by me one more time.
So because our synod, we are really focusing on the word faith formation and using that as our overarching, and putting under faith formation the children's ministry, youth ministry, young adult ministry, whatever. Are there, or do you feel that there are people out there that are feeling like the children's ministry, youth ministry is getting lost?
I have heard some things.
Okay.
And it's just kind of like when everybody was trying to be super politically correct, they kind of made a reference to that. Like we're just trying to make it, I don't know what the word is, but they were just kind of like, ugh, here they go again.
Yep.
You know, that's just something that I've heard.
Yep. Okay.
So that was Keisha talking, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So like are they like lamenting the use of the term like faith formation, or like they don't like it?
Yeah, they don't like it.
Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But remember, I'm in the middle of old men, and
yeah,
that's everybody in my conference, basically.
Right.
So is there a way for us just to better specify why we're using different language with it? Because I think if the whole change makes a lot of sense when you understand why we're changing it from youth and children and whatnot to faith formation. because there's more continuity there from birth to death. And so if you help people understand that, I think there's going to be less backlash. So how do we just communicate that more clearly?
Yep, you're absolutely right, Joel. So, and this is where, and I have been, hopefully have communicated and let everybody know, I'm available to come into congregations or into conferences and to help educate the terminology or why the shift. So like I was down in Gulf Coast Conference in April and did a morning long presentation on faith formation and why the name change and everything. So all their leaders, well, Pastor Sarah, you were there, was able to be able to understand why the language shift and kind of got that. And again, it's the educational piece of that. Was that helpful, Pastor Sarah, when I came down?
Yes, it was. And it certainly helped kind of put the whole, it was at a conference gathering, so it certainly helped kind of put the whole conference on the same page in terms of, you know, what is it that we mean when we're talking about faith formation and why is it important to use this language? Yeah, it was helpful.
Yeah. But I do understand that change is hard for people, and for some folks, when they have grown up with this language of youth ministry, and we have youth ministry professionals in our congregation, youth ministers, and we call them that, or children, youth, and family ministry directors, we call them that. It is hard to wrap your head around, you know, why aren't we, you know, segregating that more and more, you know, keeping that in that. So a lot of it is just the awareness and educational piece of that. And the more that everybody can understand and learn about the whys, I think it will take some time for the change.
Right.
Take over. And that's why I think part of this reason I gathered this team together is to help. You guys would be the ones to help communicate as well, to be the ears and eyes and the mouth of our synod, to say we're not losing and we're not trying to exclude from these different ministries, but we're trying to include and be inclusive of all and wrap around, you know, this is why the terminology difference. Everything. So. Okay, I will continue to work on the website resourcing and great suggestions, input, and we'll maybe put a question or two on the survey to get see if people can offer some resources from their experiences in their congregations to help network others. So we'll continue to work on that. The next, yep, go ahead. Okay. The next topic that I want to bring up with you all is the child protection safety policy. So if I understand right, and I think Pastor Jessica can help me with this, have you guys started working on this before I came, or were there some questions?
I put together a suggestion. I can't remember. Problem is mostly legal.
Okay.
That anything that we say, this is what we as a synod expect, or this is what we expect either at the synod level or at a congregational level, anything we put together like that then makes us liable, which I'm confused about because I'm pretty sure we're liable anyway. But it gives us some legal wiggle room if what we say is, here are some suggestions that we have for standards around child protection. So that should be somewhere on the website already. There is a document about basically, it would be good for you to have 2 adults all the time, preferably of, different genders. Adults should be 18 and up, and it would be good if they had background checks. And it's all very, both our synod lawyer and then also Tom kind of looked over them to make sure that the language does not implicate the synod at all. But there's that document, and then I believe the other one is around some guidelines for off-site trips, which was something that we had talked about because it was the spring leading up to the youth gathering.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we do have some stuff,
Okay.
but it's not much, and to me it does not seem all that helpful, and I don't think that a lot of I'm sure there are plenty of small congregations like mine that have no idea that it's even there, and if it is, the idea of implementing something like that is too costly and too intimidating, and so a lot of congregations are probably just doing nothing.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Okay. So
Yep.
just to let you all know that I have kind of started because I'll tell you, at the Office of the Bishop, we are very concerned in terms of we want safety in the synod, just period. And so we really want to work and make sure that this is all put together. So I have talked with the churchwide ELCA, especially under the youth ministry, Rachel Alley. She directed me to the ELCA, their youth ministry policy, children, youth, and family policy, and gave me some samples. I talked to our brotherhood or church mutual insurance person, and they gave me some samples of things as well. And they also, just to echo what Pastor Jessica said as well, is when talking with the churchwide and when talking with church mutual, whatever we put out, the synod cannot be, there's a lot of legal things that we can't put out something and say, you all need to do this, because we can't do that. That's just legally, we can't do that. We're not that's the questionable part. It's like, how can we not be liable? Each congregation is responsible for their own liability with children, youth, everybody in the congregation. So what we can do as a synod, as Pastor Jessica said, is that, yes, the documents that you guys have put together are fine as templates to guidelines to try to push out to there. I did look at Gulf Coast, Texas, Louisiana Gulf Coast has a great document,
Yeah.
a full document of like a manual policy, whatever, and then has forms, sample forms in it and everything. I would like to possibly see if our synod could kind of tailor something like that and encourage congregations to take a look at, and not saying that they have to, but this is the template, and your congregations can work on something like that. The key is the goal of our synod right now, and talking with our Office of the Bishop Staff and everything, is that we just want congregations to be aware of their legalities and what they could be legal for, their safety. We just want them all to be safe, and to really start to get congregations to use background checks and just different things, just because of the world that we live in. So one of the things that this team, I think we need to start working together and kind of putting together, and mainly it'll be me putting it probably, and then having you guys kind of look over and say, here, add this, don't add this, or whatever, or have questions about it. But to try to come up with something that we can present to our Synod Council to approve, and then making sure that churchwide is okay with it, and our attorneys are okay with it, and so forth. And then just having a template for congregations and trying to get that. I know the last meeting I talked about that Safe Gatherings had called me, and they work with synods. They work with North Carolina Synod. They work with a couple other synods where all the congregations can utilize their background check. So the synod pays a fee, and then congregations then can use their resources. They have video trainings on how to train for safety, for safety of children, and they have documents, templates that you can use, and then you can also use their background check company for a reduced price. So synods do that. So I misquoted at the last meeting in April because I thought it was like, I don't know, pretty, everybody's like, wow, that's cheap. Actually, for a synod to buy on to their safe gatherings and to use all their resources and their background checks, it's like close to $3,000 to $5,000 to set up a synod. And then for the background check, I want to say it's like $13, I think it was, per background check. But it's a big background check. So what's your thoughts of having a synod-wide type resource thing, or what's your guys' thoughts?
I think that would be super helpful because we all come together so often with children and youth. Just to have kind of a standard thing, even if not everybody is actually, but part of the problem in small congregations with background checks and stuff like that is that trying to do it on your own is just cost prohibitive and intimidating. Just trying to find a place to get it. So anything like that where we would be able, you could say, here's where you do your background checks, here's where you submit your information for that, would be really fantastic.
Okay.
I think
I absolutely agree with what Jessica just said. That's very true.
Same.
Darcy, this is Debbie. I agree as well. This child protective safety policy, is that on our website somewheres?
I have to, I was just
I saw a
looking at,
link somewhere.
there's a Safe Gatherings, the website links, but the things that Pastor Jessica was talking about, the 2 documents, I need to find, because when we switched over from the old website to the new, it got lost. So I think I need to find those and put those back on.
Okay, sounds good. And I agree with Pastor Jessica. As a small congregation, we've been in existence 130 years, and the last 50 we've kind of been doing things the same way. And so our buildings are old. Transparency in offices where there's windows, a lot of things that we've just done because we've just been going along doing our own thing, and now we have a new pastor and he's bringing up things that it's like, oh my gosh, we never thought of that. Sad but true. And so some of these congregations, it's just another reminder that you really need to be doing some of this stuff. So it's good to put out there.
Yeah. Okay. And I'd be curious, and maybe this is another question we put on that survey, is how many of your congregations offer child safety training or do background checks or whatever, just out of curiosity, to kind of see where everybody's at.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Yeah. My church, we already do background checks we do pretty informal training with our volunteers and like chaperones. But we don't have like a very clear-cut policy, but that is something that we're pretty clear to do is background checks.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's really important. And we just, as we continue in this world, we just need to make sure that we're protecting everybody. So what I will do, if it's okay with you all, is I will be in touch. I'll actually get a couple quotes from different, because I know there's Safe Haven, there's Safe Gatherings, there's another one too, an organization that does synods, that work with synods in terms of protection safety policies, and get some quotes and kind of get what they offer, and then bring it back to you all, and then maybe have it all by August, and then I can have it ready for Synod Council in September.
Right.
That'd be great.
So, okay.
Doing the most, Darcy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Anything else that you all can think of or have any questions about? Again, I appreciate your time this morning and you all serving on this team. This team is basically for us to get together, for me to bring certain issues to you all to get feedback and input on, but for you all to be ears and eyes and listening for folks out, because I'm not able to be out in the Synod all the time 100% every day, wherever, but you all are out and about, and especially in your own congregations. What can Southwestern Texas Synod be doing better in the area of faith formation, and how can we educate? What can we do to support? So that's what this team is all about, and I appreciate you all being a part of that. So,
Thank you, Darcy.
Thank you, Darcy. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for your work, Deacon Darcy.
Thank you. If there isn't anything else, then we'll end our meeting early, which is great because then you all can continue on. But we do need to come up with an August go-to meeting date. Are Thursday mornings pretty good for you all?
Yeah.
10 o'clock, yeah.
Fine for me.
Okay.
Yes.
Let me see.
Not after school starts.
Not after school starts. Okay.
After.
So like first couple weeks of August, Thursday morning might be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So like.
Yeah, and I'm on the end of my fiscal year, so the earlier in August, the better.
Okay. So there's August 1st or August 8th?
The 8th.
8th.
I have DBS the 1st.
Okay. Well,
I'm gone at wide.
okay.
So, I mean, if everybody else can meet on the 8th, that's fine. But I am not going to be able to even get on a call because we'll be in meetings all day.
Yeah. Yeah.
When does school start? Can we go back as far as the 15th?
I
think that's when school starts.
Start the 15th, but I can still meet then. I don't know about anyone else.
Pastor Jessica, can you do the 15th?
I can do the 15th, but again, don't change it for me.
Okay.
I can do the 15th.
I will check with Pastor Dan Time since he's missed the last two and he really wants to be on one. So I'll check with him too to see which one, the 8th or the 15th, and I'll let you all know.
Okay.
So it'll either be the 8th or the 15th.
Sounds
That's
good.
great.
So, okay. In the meantime, please prayerfully consider some questions and email them to all of us. I'll keep you all informed. I'll wrap up this recording and send it out, so especially those who can't be on. And if you think of anything else, don't hesitate to email and ask or email. So, again, thank you, and have a great rest of the summer, July. Try to stay cool. Hopefully, humidity will be lower. Yeah, right. Texas. Yeah. And
All right. Thanks.
prayers for
Take
you. All right. Take care, y'all.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.